And joining us now on the line from Vancouver, British Columbia, Tyseer Aboulnasr, Dean of the Faculty of Applied Science at the University of British Columbia, who is originally from Egypt. And Tyseer, we're glad you could make some time for us again tonight. You know, of course, all day long there was talk that after almost 30 years in power, Hosni Mubarak was going to step down. And then he made his speech on television, evening Egyptian time, afternoon our time, and he didn't. What was your reaction?
Absolute devastation. I was just listening to the first few sentences and it didn't look like an introduction to him stepping down, and I figured, okay, maybe he's just setting up the stage and it's a graceful exit, but by the end of it, it was disappointment, devastation, and in many ways, to be honest, anger. Anger?
You've talked to other Egyptians today about this, I presume?
I've called my family back there and I talked to other Egyptians over here, and it is exactly that. It's part of it is disbelief that he has reduced himself to such a state where he is basically holding on against all odds, and the rest of it is sheer anger.
He did say he would transfer power to his Vice President Suleiman. What did you make of that?
Actually, what he did is he dug Suleiman with him in his hole. It really put Suleiman with him as his. I mean, everybody knew that he is his man, and that was fine temporarily. But the language, it's the context, it's the way that Mubarak presented it. He was speaking as the president, as if nothing happened, and he was speaking about those powers outside of Egypt that are trying to force him out, and he has never done that as an Egyptian, and he's not going to do that. And the people, like my nephew was telling me, we were standing there in the Tahrir Square and saying, who are these powers? Have you not watched television? Who are we if we are not Egyptians? Are you not getting it, that the Egyptians want you out? Suleiman's language and context is also quite offensive for people, because he's basically saying, you've got your few minutes under the lights over here, go on home and let's just go back to business.
President Mubarak also said that he had created two special committees, one to recommend constitutional amendments, future changes, another one to implement them. Did that do anything for you?
If he had said that 2 weeks ago, it would have done a lot. Now he's just giving it drop by drop, and I mean, we all know what committees do. You can have committees work forever. When Mubarak wanted something done, they would go into the parliament, they would sit for half an hour, they would ask everybody, everybody says we agree and we move on. If they wanted to really affect that change, it would have been affected a long time ago, and it would not be a committee that's going to take 30 days to look at things. It's, I think it's a whole issue of waiting out the protesters and hoping that they would get tired and go away.
Tyseer, obviously none of us knows what's really going on behind the scenes, behind those closed doors, but you know enough about this to give us some informed speculation here on what you think's probably going on behind the scenes. I mean, all day long we're getting these messages that the army's about to take over, Mubarak's about to leave, and then suddenly he comes out and gives an announcement that's completely the opposite. What do you think's going on there?
I mean, speculation is a good word, because you probably know a lot more than I do. But to me, the army is debating whether it is the right time. When do you jump ship effectively from being with Mubarak? Until now, they've distanced themselves from him quite a bit, a lot more than many people would have expected. But they haven't yet jumped ship. The main newspaper in Egypt that was the mouthpiece for the government all my life has jumped ship a few days ago and started reporting in languages that are not the rhetoric of Mubarak. I think the army is distancing itself step by step, and the question is, are they going to jump ship or not?
Let's focus for a little bit here on the actual content of the speech and some of the language he used in the speech. And I was quite struck by his use of the expression, my children. He talked about the Egyptian people as his children. What did you infer from that when he used those words?
Oh, he's playing people's emotions. Because I mean, I am your father. I am the elder amongst you, and he's working on the assumption of the fact that you would respect your father. You would never, I mean, Egyptian culture, no matter what your father does, you still talk to him with respect. I remember my brother, when he was 50 years old, would not smoke in front of my father, and my father was a chain smoker, and my brother was not smoke in front of him out of respect. So he's trying to say, I am your father. That's not how you treat your elders. That's not how you treat the man who has given his life to you in there. It was unbelievable, shameless attempt. I've given my life and I'm tired of you. I want to go away, but I feel a sense of duty to continue it. And that, if anything, for the younger people that don't have that same context, it means nothing. For them, it's actually offensive. The whole assumption when he started saying we're going to call the people to ask their kids to go home, we're going to call the parents and tell them get your kids to go home because they're hurting Egypt. That for the younger generation does not it actually offends them and infuriates them more. He's trying to play on what he thinks people will go for, and I'm appealing to the peasants and the workers to stand by me. I mean, a man with $60 billion appealing to the peasants is a little too ridiculous.
Well, I should just say, I know that $60 billion figure has been bandied about in the media, but I'm not sure how many reputable sources really believe the guy is worth $60 billion.
Let's divide it by a billion. And I mean, if he has 60 million relative to Egypt, Steve, I mean,
okay, I understand.
This is not a position where you're supposed to amass money in it.
I get you. Well, okay. Let me ask you this, bit of a personal question. He called himself the father of Egypt today, and he referred to the Egyptian people as his children. Have you ever kind of regarded him in a father-like way that he wants to be seen as?
Absolutely not. And I don't know anybody who ever has.
So,
absolutely not.
So what does it say about the Egyptian people today that the people clearly no longer regard him as their father?
I don't think they ever regarded him as their father.
They never did.
I actually don't think they ever did. He just never realized it, and he still doesn't realize it. And and to be honest, when I was talking to my nephew, that language was more offensive. He thinks he's appealing to them, and it was more offensive for them. Who the heck you are to call yourself my father? I mean, it's being my father is a big thing. And if after what you've done to me, you're calling yourself my father, fathers don't do that to their children. If indeed you were my father, then treat me like a father would. And I don't think it went very far with any people over there. It never did in the first place.
What did the speech say to you in terms of Mubarak's grasp of what's actually going on in the streets of Cairo these days?
It told me, this is truly what it was, in some sense it was sad that he had constructed this alternate reality that he's in. I am wondering if he's even seen the television. I'm actually starting to wonder if the people around him might be playing something else for him and convincing him that it's just a few kids on the streets that are just disruptive. He was completely and utterly disconnected from reality.
John Bradley, who's the author of Inside Egypt, said on Al Jazeera English earlier today, quote, "The revolution starts tomorrow. We will see unprecedented numbers of Egyptians in the streets." What do you expect?
I expect that, and I actually hope for that, to be honest, because going back after all of this will result in an incredible level of depression and devastated. People had their hopes up. They were empowered. They've broken through the fear. He's trying to drain them out until they get tired and they worry about the economy and all of that. I'm hoping for, that's the message I was getting from the people over there, that his speech, if anything, has offended and infuriated people even more, simply because of the fact that he was referring to the outside powers that are trying to get him out without acknowledging that his own people have, for quite a bit of time and in a very clear way, said they don't want him in. He completely ignored that part. This part did not exist in his world. I'm
sure you and many of our viewers today were watching, one of the all-news channels this afternoon and seeing that which you have just referred to, the angry interviews in the streets, the people who are even more frustrated and more angry that Mr. Mubarak did not step down. How concerned are you that that anger is finally going to spill over into some much more significant violence than what we've seen so far?
I think that's what he has been trying to do right from the beginning, when he pulled the police off the streets, when he sent the paid thugs, the baltajiyas, in there. He's been trying to destabilize the country because he wants to appeal to people's need for safety and to say, without me, it will be havoc. I think the Egyptian masses until now have displayed an unbelievable sense of discipline, and I'm hoping they continue to display that because they know that he is trying to set them up to become violent so he can say, I told you so, and they're determined to not make him succeed. So I am keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that that continues.
There has always been...
By the same token...
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, by the same token, you would hope that we outside in the world don't just sit there and watch until they break down. We need to actually send a message that, you know what, nobody around the world, it's not just one country or another. You've lost legitimacy with your people, you've lost legitimacy outside. Nobody is going to tolerate your presence. We don't want to wait until people break down, and then we look for something to do then.
Well, let's finish on that, Tyseer, because that has been a great area of debate. As in, what should the outside world do? What would you have the government of Canada do, the government of the United States, whatever? What should they do?
The government of Canada is very easy. The government of Canada has has taken his side. The government of Canada has said, no, he's good, let's wait it out, let's give him time, let's do that. Government of Canada should stand up for the values of Canada. That's the only thing I would say. Stand up for the values of Canada. And if democracy is what we want for our people, and democracy is what we told those people over there that we want for them, then we are going to back it up and say, I'm sorry, your rule is not democratic. It's time to step down. It doesn't take too much courage to stand with a cause that the whole world is standing with now.
So you'd like to see Prime Minister Harper pick up the phone?
I would like, I don't know if it would matter to Mubarak at that point in time if the Prime Minister calls him up on the phone or not. He's obviously ignoring Obama. But I'd like to see Mr. Harper take that stand for the sake of Canada, not even for the sake of Egyptians. I don't want us to feel afterwards that we did not stand up for our values.
Tyseer, it's awfully good of you to join us on TVO again tonight. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Take good care.